Hey, what's up everybody? I welcome you to the very first episode of Big's Garage. Now let me explain exactly what I'm going to do today while this light that supposedly is going to make this video better is absolutely blinding me. Here we have my 2001 K1200LT and the rear shock and spring combo, it's going out. It's OEM, it's been on it for over 30,000 miles and you feel it. Taking tight turns, scraping pegs more than you should be, sagging a bit. Now, the front does have a Hyper Pro installed, and that is something I did off camera. Sadly, I did not catch that on film. However, today I'm going to show you the whole process of how to do it on the rear. Now, I am not a professional mechanic. You definitely should not be following this advice. See, I'm not trying to give any advice. But I am trying to show you the life of a typical, garage mechanic enthusiast who has limited tools, limited space, and even limited light. And to see how far I can get with it. So come, join me. Let's check out what we got. When you get a new part for your old motorcycle and you just imagine the way that it's going to look inside, it's a really cool feeling. I don't know why I point this out, but this is just torque specs for the front forks for the K-Bike. So if you have a front fork project, feel free to pause and use those specs. I think it's time that I share with you guys my philosophy on motorcycle maintenance. Many will say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I think the opposite. If it ain't broke, you should definitely fix it on a 23-year-old motorcycle. One that you trust with your life, the life of your significant other, and the long adventures that await. We have been down to Georgia and to Colorado and back on this machine. It has serviced us very well, and I make sure to do the same. An old machine that doesn't leave you stranded deserves the same active service in return. I'd like to think of it as a love-love relationship. The amount of love that you put into your bike is the same amount of love that you will get back. All right, and we're back. And guess what? This doesn't fit into the grooves of this. Although this is such a massive unit of a motorcycle, the spaces are like made for ants. I can't get anything in there. I thought this was gonna work. This is just your regular socket wrench. I did make a mistake. These are wrong sized, right? I need to get an adapter to put on the 15, blah, blah, blah. Should have just gotten something that works from the start, but I didn't because that's how I never learn from mistakes. Anyway, we're gonna need to go get more old school and get the wrenches out. Hopefully with that, I could fiddle it in there. Wow, all right, can't speak either. And hopefully we'll get that stubborn bolt out so we could take out the rear suspension. Let's go back to the question, did this motorcycle need a rear shock? Maybe not. Maybe it could have went on a few more trips with the OEM. But that's not something I want to be a test subject of on the side of the road. You know, I had a friend once and he told me, if you look at a motorcycle, and even if it has some things and some scratches here and there, perhaps the paint isn't perfect, if mechanically it runs well, you trust it that much more, that you'll get from point A to point B, or wherever you're headed. And to feel this type of safety from my motorcycle, I do the necessary and the unnecessary maintenance. Because when I'm riding through the cornfields at night in Missouri, or when I'm getting blasted by the wind through Kansas, or taking twisty turns in the mountains of Colorado, I want to make sure that my machine is operating at 100%. So, if you're gearing up for an adventure and you have an old steed, such as myself, I highly suggest that you take the time to go through your bike to make sure that everything works and to replace the things that may cause you trouble. And as always, I tell this to all my friends, if you take care of your bike will always take care of you. If you're wondering what's happened here, as usual, I dropped a nut. And thank God it did not fall under the alternator and by the transmission. I was able to dig it out with this pick. This right here actually broke a long time ago. I don't know what happens to them, but even if you fill these adjusters up with oil, that oil randomly disappears after a few rides. It doesn't leak out onto the or inside the bike or into the battery tray or anywhere around the wheel well. It just disappears. And also it stopped twisting for me. So it had to go. That feel-good moment when hard work pays off and you get to compare a brand new part to an old used one to see the difference. This took some fiddling around because honestly, I should have pushed that adjuster through first, but it is what it is. It got through, and that shock is looking beautiful inside. For those that know, the tight space that is the back of this shock where the nut goes and the washer are almost impossible to get to. However, I was lucky enough to just slide my fingers right through with the battery removed. Another fun struggle here, just doing that bottom bolt that connects it to the swing arm. And once again, this area is not as tight as the top, but you still have to get about half your arm through a whole bunch of wires, hoses, and of course the battery tray, just so you can grab on to whatever is there with a finger or two. So this took me a while. I decided to do this without instructions first, just trying to mount the adjuster on there on the old plate, but it just wasn't working for me. And even when I did get the bolt on, it just didn't feel right. It didn't go down, and overall it was not a good experience. So as you could see, I have the instructions to the left, or well, to my right. And with that in hand, I was able to complete this task. If you're having a bad day, remember you could always end up in very awkward positions trying to torque something in tight and awkward spaces while also having enough room and space for a camera to film you. All right, I won't lie when I say this, torquing this was one of the toughest parts of this whole job. So because I decided to be lazy and I did not remove the gas tank, the brace, and the seat that's holding all of this nicely and tightly together to have more space behind that shock, I had to suffer a little extra. Now, I still got the job done, but the amount of extensions that I needed to use, because I also did not want to jack up my bike anymore, because my jack is nicely put away, the absolute tight space that is behind this shock and this bike frame. I'm glad I at least removed the battery so I have something to latch onto. I was holding it with like a pinky in there, you know? And then I was torquing it, as you will see, with my other hand. Very uncomfortable, but it's done. It's done. The shock is on. Okay. So, we're finally done. We all survived the first episode of Vic's Garage. Now you'll notice I'm not buttoning up the bike back up just yet because I still have one more job, which will be episode 2. And that's going to be, oh, well, I'm sitting on it. But it's going to be lubing the linkage that is connected to my shifter. You hear that? Let's do that again. That's not supposed to be there. That's supposed to be tight. We'll fix it though. I'll see you next time. Have a great night. Please don't try this at home. Take care.